Welcome everyone to the second hour here. Really appreciate you attending the Data Analyst Appreciation Day. I'm Kelly Kohlleffel with Hashmap. He's Richie Bachala with the Sherwin-Williams Company. And Richie's going to share through some conversation that we'll have, some of his perspectives, learnings, insights on data in the cloud. And Richie, welcome in. Why don't you, for the audience, just if you could kick it off, highlight your background, what your current role is at the Sherwin-Williams Company.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me, and Kelly, and it's nice to do this again with you. So, well, good afternoon. I am Richie Bachala. I have been with Sherwin-Williams for about a decade now, and I currently manage the global data engineering team within our enterprise data organization. It's a fairly large team of engineers. We are currently based out of 5 countries, servicing our user base in APAC, Latin, EMEA, and North America regions. The operations, I have a team out in Mexico City that serves our business group in Latin America, and UK for our EMEA region, and Kuala Lumpur for APAC and ANZ regions. Here in the US, we are based off of Cleveland, Ohio. So it truly is a global team. We support over 11,000 internal users, data consumers for their data and analytic needs. And we are anticipating a significant growth in those numbers as well. So, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a significant base to support. And you talked about data engineering, obviously data analysts today as well, but I'd dig in just a little bit on the role of data engineering, because I think as a data analyst, the data engineering team is absolutely critical. Talk to us about your perspective on data engineering in an enterprise the size of the Sherwin-Williams Company, and how important data is just in general for you.
Yeah, sure. That's a loaded question there, Kelly, but I'm going to try to do my best I could. So anyways, in essence, I'll just talk briefly about my team, right? If I have to talk about our responsibilities, what we do on a day-to-day basis, it's a large team, but our responsibilities can be categorized into three major categories, and they can be subcategorized into multiple smaller things from under each one. But one vertical that I talk about, and since Fivetran's been kind enough to host this event today, we're going to talk about data pipelines first. So what we do is we build those data pipelines. Historically, it's called ETL. There's data movement. You use these terms like data wrangling, data ingestion, and transformation. So all of that fall under that particular vertical. So we use ETL tools like Informatica, Oracle Data Integrator, and there are a dime a dozen ETL tools, but every enterprise has their own recommended set of tools for building data pipelines. And there are also terms like smart data pipelines that come into the picture as well. So that's one vertical of my team's responsibility, is ingestion of that data into the cloud, into our unified data warehouse. Talking about data warehouses, the enterprise data warehouses that we built off of the data that's moved into the warehouse, we build data models on top of such data that's coming from multiple data sources here on the left side, and in the middle we're building these data models. So in more usable terms, how I can describe that is you have a transactional system, say a ERP system, your AP, GL, AR, whatever your source system of application is. Usually an application database is thousands of tables. So if you have to write a report, or if you have to write a query on thousands of tables, it's nearly unusable. So what data models do is you generate a small little star schema. Historically, we used to call them star schema, but as we move into the cloud, that's changing a little bit. Anyways, to scale it even back, the data model makes these thousands of tables simplistic in a smaller, more usable tables and table structures, where we expose this model to the end users in a semantic layer, which is basically more business users usable format that can be consumed from BI tools or visual analytic tools like Tableau, Power BI, name whatever tool, Looker. They all connect to these particular semantic data models. So these data models are really, really intensive and needed for supporting operational reporting needs, and also exploration reporting needs, which tools like Tableau and majority of the data analysts use for connecting and extracting and looking for insights. And the third vertical is about cloud migration. So with us being a very traditional and a mature enterprise, we have to modernize our stack and future-proof our stack in a way that we can scale and support a lot more users than we're currently supporting, right? So the 11,000 users that approximately take our data for their data consumption needs are supported by various infrastructure. And that's 5-10 years ago, everything is on-prem. You buy the servers, put it in these giant data centers, and have coolants and all kinds of air conditioning, and people putting connecting and networking. All of that work is now moving into the cloud, and when that is happening, it gives you various capabilities with movement into the cloud. So that's again the third vertical. I'm sorry, there's a lot of verbiage there, and I hope I kind of got some of it across. But in short, building data pipelines, managing and building enterprise data warehouses and data models within those enterprise data warehouses, and making cloud more accessible for reporting. Making reporting and analytics more accessible using cloud, and we use products like Snowflake on this vertical. So those are like the three pillars I would want to say are our core responsibilities as a data engineering team in a company the size of Sherwin.
No, that's impressive, Richie, and I think that all of those obviously interact a lot together. And you talked about the data modeling side, and when I think about data, I think to me it boils down to a couple of things. How usable is it, and how trusted is it? And the pipelining that you're doing, the data warehousing you're doing, the modeling that you're doing. Talk to me a minute about, and talk to us about what's going on with the data analyst team at Sherwin-Williams, with your team on the data engineering side, especially as it relates to some of the data modeling. Because when I think about that, I'm thinking this is what's actually making that data as usable to the data analyst team and to the other stakeholders, data consumers at Sherwin-Williams as possible.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, our role, our consumer, right? Our customers for data engineering team, division, whatever you want to call us, is our end users. Our end users are business users, data analysts, and various business analysts that want to consume our data for primarily two major reasons, right? One, you need data for operational needs. For X time, say at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, I need to get an SLA for seeing how our workloads are, like whatever happened on the factory's shop floor, or what happened, how much sales we made, or what was the lift of certain parameters change in the environment, like weather changed this much, how did that impact our production line or distribution or various transportation related supply chain related activities. You want to see changes. You want to see that at a certain time, right? Your executives, your leaders, your certain plant managers, whoever that you're talking to, they need certain SLAs and dashboards at a given time, and that is the bread and butter for everyone, right? In order to run a business, you need operational reporting, which is critical and which is majority of consumption layer. And then you have the exploration side, where people have the time and have the flexibility of going into various data sets and trying to see trends, trying to see what can we forecast for the future. And this is pretty much where the data scientists come in, where various data analysts come in to put fancy dashboards in Tableau to make a presentation about. But these are like usually, majority of the time, these are usually one-time needs or exploratory needs that you want to put it towards a presentation. You want to put it towards a review of an insight. So that's what how I categorize it. And then for the operational, on the operational side, that is pretty intense, right? If a certain dashboard, or if a certain SLA metric that is not ready at a certain time, the production line gets affected, your sales get affected, your business critical application that's needed, that is generating your dollars on a day-to-day basis, get affected. So for those, we have to have our pipelines built up, right? And talking about where data. So out of the 11,000 users, majority of them are data analysts in our organization that are consuming our data. I mean, they might have various titles, but then they are still data analysts for us, right? So our customers are the internal data analysts, and they use it various data sets for doing their job better, right? So we cannot meet the needs of, as engineering team, we do not meet the needs of such a large user base. So what we do is we enable them to go at the various certified data sets by themselves by building these particular data models. Like we said, like these data models are more usable and more we call them semantic layer, right? It is that one happy medium where the business users can understand what is a fact and a dimension and a metric, and where the aggregations can be done accordingly. But they cannot be doing that on this thousands of tables, big giant database. So that's why these semantic layers exist. So we make that available to them, so they could go about their exploratory reports that they can build on, and also for their operational needs as well. I hope I kind of got a little bit out of
very good. I'm going to dig in just real quick on, because you mentioned SLAs. Kind of going back over your time at Sherwin-Williams, Richie, you've got, I'd like to understand what is that SLA expectation now? You have data being generated, data being acquired, to data actually being consumed. And I'm kind of interested. I mean, as a data analyst at Sherwin-Williams 10 years ago, was it okay for that data that was generated yesterday or 2 days ago or a week ago to be consumed, over some period of time? Today, has that shifted? Is the expectation data generated this morning, boom, I need it, much quicker? I'm just curious how that's changed over time.
No, it's really not. I mean, it's always is. I want the latest snapshot right now. but the needs for real time. Everybody wants real time data. I want to know what happened. I want to know how much we sold in the last hour. Questions like that always come. But really, do you need to know that with that level of frequency for solving this problem? You can't use a giant tractor for a $5 wrench, right? So it's what you have to quantify. So
yeah.
To be honest, it's really not about data or analytics, or it's not even about insights. It's about impact, right? I think that's what we talk about. It's not about what tools we are using or how frequently the real time data sets are getting refreshed. It's actually about the business impact, and if you're not making an impact, then all of these activities really succumb to nothing, right? So which comes back to the question as, how do you define impact? Something has to change, some behavior has to change, some metric has to change. So that is again where SLAs and KPIs come up, right? So that is where real SLA definitions come up from. And what are you really trying to achieve when certain metrics are changing? Are we getting an appropriate value? Is it sustainable? And I think the questions like that are what we encourage strongly, and also in our user base and in the business too. The pace for change right now is so rapid, and also the questions that are being asked are like consistently complex. So we as an organization are in a growth mode, and also are in a learning mode. So we call ourselves a learning organization because we've never seen change this quick, and it's been an exciting time, especially to be in data and analytics.
Yeah, no, very cool. I love that you care about impact. People, process, tech, everything. It all boils down to how can that stuff work together for impact. I wanted to ask you, because you talked about this pace of change. Talk to me a little bit about the development cycle that you guys have today on new data products that you're developing. You have a new requirement associated, obviously, with the business impact, as you talked about earlier. How do you think about that? Is this something you go, okay, I've got to get a quick MVP out the door? Are you trying to get every feature possible in here? Talk a little bit about the development cycle you go through on new data products.
Oh yeah, great. That's a great question. Actually, the role of data engineering came from historically it was data warehousing. It's the data warehouse developers, right? And we used methods like Kimball and InMoff, and for the data analyst in the room, it's really great if you want to get some reading material, it's really great to read about Kimball's methodology and some principles. It's a shorter white paper that can be Googled. But anyways,
Get into a lot of philosophical debates over, Kimball, Inman, data vault, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it is great though, because I think having that kind of that ability to understand metrics and facts and dimensions from the data modeling perspective just makes the conversation between a data engineer and a data modeler and an analyst makes so much more fruitful, and you accomplish a lot because I think some of the challenges that we always have is building the relationships accordingly, and the analyst not understanding the relationships between various tables and how those surrogate keys and foreign keys interact between each other. That is really hard to explain when you don't really understand how the model is built in the background, right? So maybe just understanding certain principles out of those modeling techniques from the past kind of really is, for nerds in the room, would really be, I think, helpful for the long run in their careers too. It certainly did for some of the analysts within our community, because the analysts here at Sherwin are actually very sophisticated users that we have. They are all pretty decently versed in SQL, and they are, because now that we give them these data sets, they do use SQL at length, and we use multiple products to make that enablement. We use Tableau Data Prep. We use there are some pockets of Alteryx, and there's pockets of just people accessing directly data on Snowflake. But again, it has to be within the bounds of putting proper access and also security around and giving the data sets available to us analysts. Usually we see a lot of value. I'm sorry, I think I digressed from the question, which I think was the development life cycles, right?
Yeah.
So the life cycles are, so it's different, right? And the reason I brought up Kimball and all of these previous methodologies is we build for every problem, we find the source system, build a data warehouse, and then have it available with a semantic layer, and then put a BI tool or a BI report on top. That was like historically like 1990s and late 90s, and that's how it evolved. But today, with the advent of cloud, we have products like Fivetran, where we don't really have to build that entire stack, where you enable a SaaS-based integration point, and the time to market for building a data pipeline previously it's X hours, now it's X divided by 10 or something, and it comes down to having you invoke a service and the data is already synced up into, say, a platform like Snowflake, and then that's now available for consumption by a data analyst. So depending on what use case, we have to make a choice. Where are we using accelerated products like Fivetran for moving the data, or do we have to build these pipelines from scratch using our existing ETL tools? Is I think the decision points that we have to make, and we are moving away from one size shoe for everything, right? Which does not really work, because especially with how quickly our environment, especially within data analytics, is changing, it is very, very important for us to keep up with a lot of these accelerated models for us to decrease our development life cycle. We still encourage proper data models for operational reporting, because those need to be met consistently on a timely basis. But anytime there is an exploratory need or a project need or something that we want to find value, by the end of the day, we are engaging into newer accelerated methods and maybe looking at virtualizations as options for getting data faster to our analysts, because we don't want to be that bottleneck. We want to get our users to the data that they're seeking quicker. So and I think I'll give a plug here for how Fivetran's helping in some of that, right? We have, for example, a SaaS-based product that's in the cloud, and for us to build that API call and microservices architecture and build all of that data sources and data models would have taken us 2 to 3 months to get through that entire thing. But finding Fivetran, having a connector and bringing that 200 tables all down into our warehouse and having them available, we were able to accomplish that in like 4 days. So the things like that really absolutely help. So I think we are finding newer ways to build smart data pipelines and using some existing accelerated tools in the market as well.
Yeah, no, that the time to market, or as you said, much better. That time to impact gives you relevancy, and if you can do things, take them from 30 days or 2 months or 3 months down to just a few hours or a few days. I mean, that makes you so relevant as an organization. It makes the data analysts and the consumers of the data really, really happy. I'm still trying to get my head around how in the world, with 11,000 data consumers, how do you possibly meet those expectations? Because you talked about it, they're become, we all are becoming a much more sophisticated data consumption society. I mean, whether it be personal or in business, right? So the expectations are just exponentially increasing. You've got 11,000 people knocking on your door all the time. How do you kind of walk us through? How do you try to meet that as best you can?
Yeah, and it's a loaded question that I have to ask myself, or like the leaders within our organization. We have to ask ourselves almost consistently every week, because everyone's anxious to learn, and they're anxious to learn about what the cloud has to offer, anxious to learn what platforms like Snowflake or platforms within user community based platforms driven like Tableau have to offer, and there's more movement in every direction. So I think the two things that we at least try is the key word, is to keep an eye out in the market to see what's available and what are the changes and the trends in the industry, which have to be translated into our efforts to modernize our tech stack into delivering the data sets that the users need quickly. So that's one way, and then the other piece is we have to listen to our user base, because we've seen this time and again. We have to listen to our customers, and our customers, the data analysts, we have to listen to them. So for one example that I always share is how Tableau came about in our enterprise. Is we were out at a user base, and Tableau user base in Cleveland, and a lot of our key data consumers were sitting in the first row at the user conference, not a conference, but like this happy hours kind of event where Tableau is doing a presentation. And towards the end of it, the question gets asked as, how many of you guys are Tableau customers? And every one of those people from our enterprise had their hands up. And it was kind of a shock, because they are consuming those data sets from our traditional BI tools. Like, I don't want to tell names, but and then after the end of the conference, we are me and a couple other coworkers that we work together are the only developers and engineers, and actually come from a leadership role too. But we just wanted to check out what's this all about, and they were stunned to see us. But towards the end of it, what we found out is they are moving, extracting the data from our traditional BI tool into Excel and pumping that Excel into Tableau, so they could put a nice fancy visualization in their presentation to their leaders. And that was a rude awakening. And then we weren't on pulse with our user base as to what they wanted. We were giving them what they wanted, but they wanted something more nicer to look at, and something more easier to present, and then to say a story, to convey a story in their messages, in their own particular ladder up the ladder. So listening to our community has been a big way for us to serve, because even with a pretty decent sized global engineering team that I manage, there is no way in our life we would be able to take care of it. We just have to make sure our goal is to bring them to the data sets that they need, and make sure those are being refreshed timely, and we are keeping the consistency in certified data sets. That way we are not prone to audit or compliance issues, or that would hinder us from other issues. But enabling them is what we are here for, and we definitely want to do a better job serving our customers, and it's like consistently learning process.
Yeah, no, that I'm sure the story that you related is pretty similar to examples that a lot of us have out there, and it just proves, like we talked about earlier. I mean, if you can't deliver, you become irrelevant, and we'll go figure out a way to get it done on our own, right? So it's incumbent upon us delivering data and data services to do that as quickly and as usefully and as trusted as possible. Richie, I could keep going, man. This has been great. I do want to take the last 5 minutes. So, Jason, maybe some of the folks have some questions, and we'd love to just open it up. I mean, Richie is a trove of incredible information. So why don't we open it up for questions, Jason, from anybody in the audience that's listening in?
Yeah, we do have one question that came in, and I would take this opportunity to encourage you, if you have questions for Richie, please do let us know. Richie will lead off with a question that came in. Your perspective is really interesting. You're saying that you include raw data gathering and storing as well as data layer building and modeling on the engineering front?
Yeah, I mean, well, we are, working towards an enterprise data repository / data lake conversations, but essentially, an enterprise data warehouse is a combination of multiple different various data sets for your consumers. So that's definitely in the scope of our responsibilities.
Great.
Hey, Richie, while we're waiting on a couple of other questions, just kind of from a personal standpoint, anything that just has you exceptionally excited throughout the rest of this year as it relates to what's going on with you and your team at Sherwin-Williams this year, that might be interesting for the team, for everyone to hear as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I can talk about that for an hour, but I think I will keep it super generic for sure. What I want to, parting thoughts, right? Engineers love to see their products being used, their services being used, and when it happens, it just gives a whole amount of we feel like valued and providing value to the organization, because in a spectrum of any data analytics project, about 85% is in the process of bringing that raw data over and then getting it into either the data lake or bringing it into the warehouse and then putting the various guardrails and guidelines around security and encryption and compliance related, SOX related, compliance related rules, and then having it exposed in a certified, timely fashion to our end users. So that's the big chunk that comes 85%, right? And then you consumer level, you have the data scientists, the analysts, you have the various business process users and various operational end consumers that consume and use it for various purposes that the data is meant to be. But in the process, what I think what we've been trying to be very cognizant about is how can we meet the unmet and unarticulated needs of our customer, which are the analyst community, is consistently the question that we keep answering, because our community is so large, and they do not know what they want, and every time they have to come to you for, hey, I'm trying to figure something out, it just becomes too much, because you cannot serve such a large community when they have to come. So we have to be ahead of that curve. We have to be ahead of that curve to understand what is that unmet and unarticulated need for our end analyst community is looking for. So that's something. And then the other thing is, just to be a learning community or learning organization, regardless of where you are in your maturity level, it is consistently important to be able to learn from your users and your customers, and also learn from the community and technology that's changing now.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think, for all of us, it is absolutely every single day. The minute you think, oh, I've got this, I know it, I've learned it, something new comes out. So this data space is moving so quick. I also loved what you said, this notion of having a proactive view towards what's the impact that I can make to your community. Love it. I think those are great recommendations, I think, for all of us out there. Really appreciate it. Richie, fantastic having you share some of your thoughts and insights today. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys.